All right, so first day in the gym. Today didn't quite go as I guess I had it in my head that I could perform to. But it is the first day. Adaptations after taking a little bit of time off can sometimes come back rather quickly. And I guess I'll just have some optimistic hope that that's going to happen here. This rowing for me has a couple of different benefits, like I had mentioned in my last video. First of all, I find it to be very like ergonomic or naturalistic movement. I think that it matches the human body really well, even though it doesn't exactly look like it. Maybe that's because you're kind of taking out the reaching above the head element. I think that it's very climbing-like. Our background is, we're primates, so I think there's some climbing in our, there's more climbing in our evolutionary history than there is running, even though the running is probably more recent. So for a running and formerly climbing animal, I think the row is a really great movement. So I like getting my cardio here. I like getting my conditioning in this realm. The other thing that is the reason I like it is that I think I understand the cadence of rowing pretty well. It's reminiscent of swimming, and being a former swimmer, I think I take to this well, but it doesn't have whatever the opposite of nostalgia is. Like, I don't dread this like I do swimming. I think I get the stimulus that I used to get from swimming when I was very good at it. So there's several different ways that this is positive and enjoying. It's enjoyment on top of it actually meeting my goals. I had also mentioned that it doesn't have the same impact that running does. I think running is great. We are definitely born to run, quote unquote. But I think you actually have to be running for many years before the running can actually be of conditioning benefit to you. There's only so much that you're going to be able to do without beating up your bones and your joints if it's not something you kept up from childhood or for the last several years. You may think that you're doing all right, but I think that it's out of appropriate ratio with your goals if you're trying to do a strength sport such as strongman. If what you're attempting to do maybe is weight loss, and so you need to keep a middle to low level heart rate for a very long duration. We're talking maybe if you're a noob to running 90 minutes plus, but if you're very advanced, maybe getting in excess of 2.5 hours would be like what you're trying to do for weight loss. But for some people, they don't have the self-control, so they go home and they overeat. My father is a great example of this. He's a guy who runs multiple 50-mile and 100K races a year. He's done several 100-mile races, and he's in his 50s, but he could be a lot better if it wasn't for the fact that he overeats and definitely indulges in alcohol. Probably the fact that he's able to do what he does with his bad habits is in itself a testament to his mental fortitude more than it is his physical prowess. So the row is really the best in regards to this. I think that you're burning calories in a way that is more global, right? It's more stimulating full body. And so somehow I get the sensation that translates to less stress, right? It's greater calorie expenditure for the amount of stress and strain incurred. I hope that makes sense. I'm such a big advocate of dumbbell. I honestly cannot stress it enough. Still kind of getting my stride here. I hate the machine at this particular gym because the straps don't tighten, and it really bothers the crap out of me. So some of the things that I'm paying attention to when I'm rowing is the angle that my knees are taking to my ankle and to my hip, the pressure that I'm putting on my foot. Depending upon what my goals are for that day, sometimes I'll try and get more pressure forefoot because the recoil, the rebound back, I can sort of put some tension on my ankle dorsiflexion, and that helps me warm up for maybe some Olympic lifting, really driving my knee into my ankle, if that makes sense. And then I'm also making sure that I'm getting what I feel to be an appropriate angle of my knee to my hip, right? So that external hip rotation, stability. If I do it right, I can kind of drive my low back / my actual pelvis through my hips, and I feel a bit of a stretch in my hip adductors. And so that's something I'll focus on, especially if I'm going to be squatting very deep that day, or I know that I'm going to be hitting like a heavy clean, and so I'm going to need to be able to get under the bar to full depth and be strong there, right? So this is some mobility stuff going on. A lot of people don't realize maybe the reason that your low back tends to round at the bottom of the squat is actually, weirdly enough, because your hip adductors are tight or inflexible or weak or like some mixture of all those things. And then also maybe just a straight up a weak low back in comparison to those things, right? So like there's definitely a breakdown somewhere there. So I'm really just, the pace is bad on this. I'm really trying to figure out, like, am I pulling symmetrically? Am I engaging my lats the same? Am I leaning back on it at the right place? Sometimes this takes a few sessions to really get back into it. And this is one of the things that reminds me of swimming. You lose your water feel, as they call it in swimming, very quickly. You get back in the water and you feel like you've never swam in your life. It's so bizarre. I think it's very similar to that feeling you might have. I remember this from when I was a kid, that I would just be on my bicycle all day, and then I would hop off, and my legs, like, they weren't fatigued because I was so used to doing it, but I was in that range of motion set by the bicycle pedals for so long that I would get off and try and walk, and the act of walking, which I would do every day for a short duration, would feel so unnatural. And that's kind of like what it is getting back in the water, and that's kind of what it is getting back on the row machine. It's like I've never done it before in my life, but it just takes a little while and it comes back. Yeah, so I'm doing some really big follow throughs, trying to remember at what point I'm changing progressively. When I start to progressively change the angle of the pull, and it transitions from being very lat dominant, very like row like into like a shrug, pulling with the shoulders. And even when I do pull with the shoulders and I'm doing it as I intend, it's very brief, it's very momentary, and it's very explosive, because it's just to work out a little bit of extra at the end. This is not the kind of form that I think you would take how would I say this? It's not the kind of form that you would take if you're trying to do a very long endurance set. It's the kind of form that you're using to try and achieve a momentary top speed, right? So it's 10 times more energy expenditure for only like 10% more on the actual like performance output. So after this, I start to do some box jumps, trying to feel springy, trying to feel explosive, but doing this in such a way that I'm not really fatiguing myself. I'm just sort of trying to translate the fact that I'm warmed up into a movement. That's why it's only like, 2 to 4 reps. And then I actually go into my EMOM, which was where I felt like I failed a bit. I was only really able to do 8 or 9 times through. I sort of lost count, but I was just absolutely gassed. It ended up being 8 thrusters with 20 pounds each hand, right? So it's only 40 pounds loaded. And this may have been just hard had I done, what is that? That's something like a fifth of my body weight. So I probably would have been gassed if I had done 20% more squats at just body weight. It would have been the same. It was just really the reps and the intensity that was hard. Moved over to doing some curls and doing some tricep extensions just to finish out the workout, stimulate some things that I know don't get hit when you do a full body anything. So that's the workout. See you next time. Like and subscribe. I'll do probably another video day after tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.